All right, so today we're going to talk about Chiron in astrology. What does he mean both in the natal chart and in transit on that fundamental meaning? So Chiron, not very often talked about in astrology. Only a Western concept, Western point in the astrological chart that we use, considered a planet. The Vedics, of course, only use everything up to Saturn and Rahu Ketu, the north and south nodes. So it is strictly a Western concept. So you can see this both in the Western mythology of Chiron, which is synchronistically associated with Chiron in the sky. And you can also see it too by the notable characteristics of Chiron in the solar system. So let's go ahead and start with the notable characteristics. A couple things you'll note about Chiron. He was recently discovered in 1977. Since then, it has become more implemented in Western astrology, more so as time has gone by. And the characteristics are essentially that of a comet. He's considered a comet. He's got that icy composition, and he's got that really weird elliptical, tilted orbit like Pluto. So definitely a comet, and comets, like I was saying in the Pluto video, are messengers. They're from the outer reaches of the solar system here to convey some sort of message. Now, in terms of his qualities, he's ice, right? And ice is, of course, water. And water, as you know, and we talked about this with the moon and everything, is about the water retention in our bodies. It's also about our feelings, our emotions, and the spiritual aspects of self. But notice that it's ice, that it's hard, okay? And this is very important because it means that it's the denser or, quote, lower or more human aspects of self, especially in the emotional body and of the physical self, that are denser in nature. And what's so interesting about Chiron is that when he's exposed to the sun, the ice turns to gas instantly. It doesn't even go to water, it just turns from ice to gas. So this is very synchronistically important because it's associating the transformation from the hardened emotional aspects of self into the spiritual higher and lighter aspects of self. So it's that transformation there, but specifically relating to water. So the key with this is that it's about spiritual transformation from the lower to the higher states of consciousness and being with that. And again, it can be physical, which is why Chiron is associated with physical healing as well. So that's one aspect of it. Another aspect of his characteristics is that he orbits right in between Saturn and Uranus. And this is very significant because this is the gap right before we get to the very physical aspects of the self, which is everything up to Saturn, to the outer planets, which is everything above the physical, or more going into more of the spiritual aspects of self, which is Uranus, Neptune, etc. So again, from lower to higher, and especially with Saturn, Saturn is the planet of density. It's a planet of everything physical, of really basically the material realm. And then you've got Uranus, right, which is about releasing from the physical realm and going into higher states of being to liberate ourselves. So it's that gap again from Saturn to Uranus that you can see with that. So it's very much about healing. It's very much about redeeming and accepting that we do have these, quote, human or lower aspects of self, hardened physical aspects of self, and through that we do find the redemption and the healing and rejuvenation, and in many ways liberation that comes from that. So that's seeing it from the characteristics of Chiron. You can also see it with the mythology too. Mythologically, long story short, is that Chiron, first of all, is a centaur. So again, the same duality, lower half animal, instinctual, more earthly in nature, top half human, which is actually more like a god. He was a god, so top half is that spiritual aspect of self. So again, that duality with that. But the story is essentially that he injured his leg, okay, and he wasn't able to heal it. It was an uncurable wound. So he spent his whole life trying to heal this wound, that he became a healer. He became very good at healing. So unfortunately, he wasn't able to heal it, but he did gain a gift, and that was the gift of healing, in which he was able to bestow upon other people. So there is that area in the chart, which you can see really associated with where we feel wounded, where we have this uncurable wound, so to speak. And when we, accept it, when we work with it, and we realize that it's mainly just a process that we're working on within ourselves, again, it's more of the transformational energy, then, we can become healed in steps. But more importantly, it's showing us where we have our greatest gift, where we actually, through that overcompensation, are actually very good in that area, even though we don't actually believe that we are. And it's also the gift that we can give to others and share with others and help others heal in that particular area. So you can see that in both the house placement, which would be the area of life. So for example, if it was the third house, house of communication, of socializing, of learning, this would be someone who naturally has that uncurable wound, that feeling of doubt, insecurity, and woundedness in that area. However, they've compensated for it in life, so they're actually very good there, even though they may not see it as such. And then it's that gift that they can actually help others heal and become, redeemed in terms of their qualities of communication and social and learning. So the house placement, very important. And then you can also see it with the sign characteristics, which would show how it's done and which way does the person heal. So for example, if it was Aries, the person in which they heal is by taking action, is by asserting themselves. In this sense, maybe asserting their communications, asserting themselves to learn and really get that proactive, self-willed energy. But they'll naturally feel a little bit wounded too in regards to their ability to initiate and their ability and their confidence and things like that to start things and push forward with things. But again, it's more of an internal aspect of the self, and when we have that acceptance and nurturing really with that watery energy, then we do come up to a rejuvenated higher state of consciousness with that. So that's essentially what Chiron represents in the natal chart. So you can see this for yourself, very powerful. It's also in transit too, where we're temporarily going through that sort of healing energy. Chiron is associated with Ophiuchus, which we'll talk about next time. Ophiuchus stands on top of the Scorpio. He's got that leg on the Scorpion, again, associating with injury to the leg. And also Sagittarius, too, associated there because, Sagittarius is also a centaur. So we'll talk more on that when we get to the constellations, but hopefully this helps for now, and I'll see you guys all next time. Take care.